Hello my dear friends, hope you all be fine and doing well. Thank you so much for joining again in your channel. My dear friends, in this video I'm going to show you how you can play against the Ruy Lopez opening and you are trapping your opponent in fishing pole, and this is one of the most famous traps in chess. As you know that Ruy Lopez or Spanish opening is one of the most well-known openings, and majority of grandmasters, especially Magnus Carlsen, played this fantastic opening. So you will face with lots of players that they are playing the Ruy Lopez. So when you are facing with such a players, you should know the idea of fishing pole and how to trap your opponents. So without wasting the time, let's get started the game. In this position, your opponent is pushing the pawn into e4, and you just simply push the pawn into e5. Now he is taking his knight into f3 and attacking to your weak pawn in the center. And these are the main lines that both players should follow. And you just simply activate your knight by taking it into c6 and defend from your pawn. So in this position, your opponent is taking his bishop into b5. And this opening is called the Ruy Lopez. So my dear friends, in this position as a black, you have different options to play. As a perspective of grandmasters, when they are playing this game, so the best move for them is pushing the pawn into h3. This is the main lines that you can play against the Ruy Lopez or Spanish opening. But there is another move that you should try it, and that is taking your knight into f6. So in this way, you are going to trap your opponent in Ruy Lopez opening. Your opponent is simply going to castle. This is the main lines for Ruy Lopez. There is two things in this position. Your opponent's pawn is free in the center. So is it a good idea to capture this pawn? No, my dear friends. Be careful in this position. It is another trap from white side that you should not capture this pawn by your knight. So what happens? For example, if you capture this pawn, so your opponent is taking his rook into e1, and now you cannot defend from your pawn. So I'm not going to discuss about this line as a perspective of white because it is going too much lengthy. So in Ruy Lopez opening, I would discuss about this in a separate video. So coming back to the main lines that is important in this video, and that is about fishing pole trap. So you just keep in mind that you should not capture this free pawn. That is poisonous for you. So what is the best move here? And here as a black, you have the best move, and that is placing your knight into g4. It is looking very simple move, but what is the good move for your opponent? Maybe majority of you are thinking that there is only good move, and that is pushing the pawn into h3, threatening your knight. So in this position, when your opponent is pushing the pawn into h3 and threatening your knight, so if you take back your knight into f6, it would consider as a blunder, or somehow it is called that you missed the winning opportunity. So therefore, you should not think about your knight, and you just completely shock your opponent and surprise him. How? By pushing the pawn into h5. Now your opponent is in a critical situation, and he is thinking with himself that what should I do in this position? Especially in this position, you sacrificed your knight, but this is not a good idea for your opponent to capture this knight. What happens if your opponent captures this knight? If he captures, so now you are simply capturing by your pawn. In this position, your opponent has to square for his knight to saving his knight. For example, if he decides to bring his knight into h2, you have this brilliant move, and that is taking your queen into h5. In this position, by 2 force, you are threatening your opponent into checkmate. Your opponent cannot defend from his checkmate. For example, if he captures your pawn, So simply you are giving this fantastic checkmate. This is not appropriate move for your opponent, and in this way he cannot save himself. But there is only one move for your opponent. At least he is trying himself to defend from checkmate, and he wants to save himself. And that is the only option for him, and that is pushing the pawn into f3. You should not be hurried to capture the knight, because in this way your opponent is escaping from checkmate. So what is the best move? The best move is pushing the pawn into g3. By pushing the pawn to g3, you are attacking to the knight, and especially you are controlling the square that your opponents want to escape. Now there is not any option for your opponent to defend from this checkmate. So maybe he is taking his knight into g4. But with only one move, you can checkmate your opponent, as these squares are controlled by your pawn and by your queen. So in this way, you can checkmate your opponent. And this is called the fishing pole trap against the Ruy Lopez opening. So my dear friends, coming back to the main lines that you can play against the Ruy Lopez. We already discussed about the taking the knight into b5. And this move is not widely playing in a grandmaster's level. So the best move in here is pushing the pawn into a6. And this is the main lines that you can play against the Ruy Lopez opening. In this position, if your opponent decides to exchange his bishop with knights, you simply capture it by your pawn. Now your opponent has this option to capture your pawn in the center. It has no defender, but in fact he cannot capture it, because when he captures this pawn by his knight, now you have this fantastic move, and that is taking your queen into d4. You can attack to the pawn and to the knight of your opponent. In this way he can save only one of them. So therefore your opponent would not capture your pawn. So your opponent will prefer to go castle, and this is the main lines in this position. So when your opponent goes to castle, you have this fantastic move, and that is pinning your opponent's knight by your bishop. It is seeming very normally that as you think why your opponent should not push the pawn. Maybe majority of the players, they are thinking this is the best move. They should threaten the bishop. But by his surprise, again you have this brilliant move, and that is pushing the pawn into h5. In this position also, the previous scenario will be repeated. If your opponents capture your bishop, so you are capturing the pawn and attacking to your opponent's knight. So your opponent's knight has three options. We already discussed in a previous variation about the two squares that your opponents can go. But in here, this is also one of the options for your opponent that can capture your pawn. It has no defender. But is it easy to capture it? So if he captures, again, your best move is taking your queen into h5. So you see, my dear friends, again, you are threatening your opponent into checkmate. So this is the only option for your opponent that can allow him at least to do something. Otherwise, you are directly checking with him. And he doesn't have this move to pushing the pawn, because you have this brilliant move and checking mate directly. So therefore, he has this only option. And if he is pushing the pawn here or here, it doesn't matter. Again, you have this brilliant move, and that is pushing the pawn and controlling the important square that you are not allowing your opponent to escape. So up to this position, whatever your opponent does, so by only one check, you can mate him, as he cannot escape to anywhere. So my dear friends, coming back to this line, in this position, the best move for your opponent is sacrificing his knight. He should sacrifice his knight. For example, in this position, he is pushing the pawn into d3, sacrificing his knight. So you are capturing the knight. Now he is capturing with his queen. If you bring your queen into h4 and threatening to checkmate, so in this position, your opponent has this move and he is defending from his checkmate. So you are capturing, the queen is capturing by his pawn. Now you are capturing by rook. In this position, your opponent saved himself from your trap. But this is a good position for black as well, because as a black, you are 1 pawn up. And if you think the position is also good, and there is lots of good chances that you can win the game. So thank you so much, my dear friends, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you like the video, please subscribe the channel, share it with your friends and family members.